Hello, artists. Today I'm going to tackle what most of us think is one of the most difficult flowers to draw or paint, and that is the rose. This is one of the last roses of summer in my garden, and I thought I better pick it and draw it now. So let's see what happens when I give it a try. One of the reasons I chose this particular rose is because of the color, and it'll give me a chance to do a gradient wash and show you how that's done. With watercolor, I will tell you right now, it's not always easy, but I'm not going to let that stop me. And if it works out, it works out. And if it doesn't, oh well. So that's the thing about working in a sketchbook, because if it doesn't work out, it was trial and error anyway. Now I want to stand it up so that I can actually see the center. Oh, that works. Okay, so to begin with, I'm using again my Micron 05 pen, which is archival ink, and that means it's permanent, and so when you put water on it, it won't go anywhere. So what I want to do is look at where to start, because I usually start with what's in front, which I will do with the leaves because that's obvious. But then when I look at the flower, I think, well, this is behind this from my point of view. This is behind this is behind this. So it's actually quite an easily layered piece, except for this little part right here. So I want to put that in first. And I'm just going to keep looking at the rose as I do this little wavy line. And then take it down this way, but I can't go far because this one kind of overlaps it. So let's try to get that little cup shape in there. And it runs right into that before it shows up on the other side with a little bit of a ripple. And it also has this little fold in it, and another one right here. You see that? I don't know if you can see that from your point of view. What I see is the center of the flower, where it attaches to the stem. There's a little group of, I don't know, little dots or something. And then there's kind of a ring, which is green. And then there's all these little stamens. So I'm just going to put a few of those in so that it gives the impression without doing a lot of work on it. Okay, now where to next? That's the question. Now if you're looking at this and thinking, oh my goodness, I could never do that, don't worry your pretty head about it, because I feel exactly the same way. I kind of go, what am I thinking here? And I know for a fact that it's not going to turn out exactly how the rose looks. But I have a feeling that it's going to be close enough that we can tell what it is. And then I have to not lose track of where my petals are here. One thing you can do is kind of make little marks for where you want things to go. And I'm basically freehanding this. This is not an exercise in perfection. So that's our rose. Is it rose-like? Yeah, more or less. It's not really the point here. All right, so down here we've got our stem. This rose, by the way, has lethal thorns on it. On the wood, it's just like, don't go close, it'll stab you. So this is the end of September, and it's hot out. So it's that kind of weather now where it's like the furnace in the morning and the air conditioner in the afternoon. I actually had it on for a little while, but I have to turn it off because the fan interferes with the sound on my camera, and then I get a background noise which I can't edit out. Okay, there's our drawing. That didn't take long. I've got my brush, my Favy brush, and my water. And I'm going to start with the leaves. This is my Try It paper. And I'm going to use this green from the Kuretake set. And this one, I'm going to just try those and see which one I like best. I think this one might be a little too jazzy a green. Well, mixed with some yellow, it'll work. Okay, I'll keep that one. This one, that's a good green. That's actually very accurate. And this one, which is, I think it's a little too deep. That's Hooker's green. It's a good one, but I don't know. These petals are quite faded. They're almost, I'm almost going towards olive green. So let's try this one, which is called, guess what, olive green. Yeah, okay. Let's do some of those. I'm just going to use straight color on this part. Now, I've mentioned before with the Kuretake paints, they're a little bit more opaque than a lot of transparent watercolors. And that's fine, but it's good to just be aware of. So from my point of view, this is kind of the color I have. Now, there's a bunch of little brown spots on those, and I may or may not put those in. This one, let me see, I want to mix a little bit of other color in there so it lightens up. And that's why I keep the paint on my palette from the previous project. Unless I'm starting a big project, like a big painting or something, and I really want it to, everything to be nice and clean, I just leave that there. Okay, there's another kind of darker leaf down here, which is, let's see, it's kind of, that's not the one. This is called Hooker's green too, but it's really a different shade of green. I want some of that olive in there, I think. That's pretty good. It'll do. The thing is, once this painting leaves my hand, nobody has any reference to look to compare with and say, oh, you didn't get that right. After this, the rose is going to die, and that'll be that. Okay, I'm mixing some yellow in here because these ones in the front are quite yellow. And the reason I'm not doing that one is because I want to put a little bit of darker paint on the side here. Okay, this one is an odd color, and so is that, because the backs of the leaves, they have red veins in them. So it's the oddest color because it's a bit red around the edge, but I'm going to just paint it green at the moment. And I might just add a little bit of a red edge. I want a little tiny brush. I buy brushes when I see a good deal. I'm not the kind of artist that is really a snob about the colors or whatever. I like to try things, and if they work, they work. It doesn't matter if they're considered top or whatever. Okay, and this little leaf over here, it's really a weird color because it's halfway between orange and green, pretty much like that. Because these have little brown spots, I'm going to come back to those. But in the meantime, this is quite a bright green. So there's that. Now I'm going to move into the center here of the flower while this stuff is drying. I have to move this over so I don't put my hand in the paint. I'm going to put in a bunch more of these little stamen dealies, just so that it really shows. This flower actually reminds me of wild roses. When I was a child, I grew up on a farm in Saskatchewan, and in the springtime, my siblings and I would ride our bikes down the country roads, which were like almost always empty of traffic. There was one spot about half a mile from home that there was a bunch of wild roses. And we loved to go down there and pick roses and take them home to our mom. But they're pale, right? They're pale pink like this once they're blossomed. But the buds are tiny. They're like this big and bright pink. I loved those buds with the bright pink. Never cease to love pink. So there you go. Sometimes how you are as a child, well, I think pretty much always, how you are as a child is how you are. And I noticed that with our daughters, that the older they got, the more obvious it became they were always like that. Okay, I have the perfect pink for this, I think. These are Kuretake paints as well. See, that's pretty close. My daughter bought me these in London when she was there a couple of years ago. So it's just, this is just a tad warmer. So I have this yellow over here. I'm going to try mixing those, mix a big like pot of that, and see if it gives me that warm pink. Well, that's pretty darn near perfect. Let's make some more of it. Don't want it to be too orangey, so in order to prevent that, just add more pink so that the pink predominates. You see how this is kind of striated? I don't know if I'll do that or not, but I'm going to start in the back here. You know what? That is not the right color. There's my little unit here. Well, that's more like it. It's very close. Not perfect, but very close. So that's how you can mix colors, and then but try them on your little paper. I would prefer if I had the pink a little bit more transparent. So I'm going to put this around the edge like that. Then I'm going to take my brush with just water in it and just spread it a little bit. Let it just kind of run into it. Now hopefully it's not so I don't have too much water or too much paint so that it kind of fills in, which is kind of what it's doing, but these outside ones are a lot more pink anyway. So I just picked up a little bit of Opera Rose, which is one of my favorite colors because I love bright colors. I love bright and I love pastel. I just love color. There. Now what we're looking for is not a photograph, as I've said before. If you want a photograph, take a photograph. If you want perfection, what we're looking at is a watercolor and a watercolor look. So because this has drifted too far, I took the water out of my brush so that it becomes like a little sponge. I think it's quite effective. So you just do one after the other, and gradually they come together. This one has just a tiny bit of pink along the edge, and I think I'm just going to leave the rest of it. And then same with this little thing here. And down in the center, there's basically white and sort of yellow, so we'll have to come to that in a minute. And then here's our last one here, which is actually kind of bright. Make it a little bit brighter so that it just stands out a little bit more. Okay, there is the almost finished rose. Now before I call it done, I'm going to put a tiny amount of green in the center and some yellow around these things. But I don't want that lemon yellow. I want this color? Let's see. Yeah, that one will do. Just want to just kind of dot it in here so it gives the impression of the yellow center of the rose. Now, I could also add a little bit of shadow in there. That's another kind of trick. And I can do it, but I have to wait for this to dry. In the meantime, I'm going to add a little bit of green on the back of this leaf and go through and deal with these brown spots. Now they're kind of, see, they're kind of reddish brown. What's this color like? Well, it's pretty close, so I'm going to use it with some of this. Because we've got kind of an orange here. And then these are all dry, so I'm just going to put some of these little freckles in here. Because it's the end of the season, everything looks a little bit battered. But you can see how easy this is to do. If you're interested in a class, I'm working on one at the moment. I would love for you to join me. Just go to my website. There's a link below. It's just my name.com, like my whole name, one word.com. /courses, that'll take you there. At the moment it's a waiting list. By the time you see this at some later date, it'll be already on. I want a little bit more of this sort of red-green color on the back of this leaf so that it stands out a little bit more. Make this one a little bit deeper. And one final thing, I'm going to use my tiny brush for that. Right in the very center, there's some tiny red dots. And I think by adding those, it's going to really add something. It's still a little bit wet in here. I think it's fine like that. I really should have waited till it dried, but I didn't. I could put more color on some of these to just make them a little bit more vibrant. I think that will do, don't you? I hope you've enjoyed this. Please subscribe to my channel and all that, and I'll see you next time.